are so blessed to have Dr. Akmal Wakil with us tonight. Dr. Wakil is going to be talking about the essential healing, winter essential healing from our ancestors. And I know I am very excited about hearing what wisdom he has to share with us. I'm sure you all are too. So, with no further ado, I would like to introduce our esteemed guest, Dr. Akmal Wakil.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. In order for me to open, I'm an Ifa priest. I have to give honor to our ancestors. So, Omi tutu, ono tutu, ila tutu, tutu, eshu, tutu, loria, tutu, wari, ku, baba, horn. Majoba ala fin, majoba ala dumare, majoba ala one. Majoba shade, majoba akeda, majoba dun, I read dun, makwe dun, majoba iatobi, majoba baba tobi, majoba in Belize, ola dumare. E bye bye to new. You can call your ancestors at this time. E bye bye to new Grandma Jones. E bye bye to new Grandpa Jones. E bye bye to new the Holden family. E bye bye to new the Jones family. E bye bye to new all of the blood, all of the ancestors that runs through my body. E bye bye to new. E bye bye to new.
The family ancestors.
Ancestors. E bye bye to new is the
Muwwakil, you went
You
mute.
unmute yourself, Doctor. Dr. Muwwakil, you are accidentally muted. Could you unmute yourself, please?
how's that? I don't know how that
Yeah.
happened.
That was me. My apologies.
Oh, okay. E bye bye to new is when you call out your ancestors because that is the opening the way for them so that they can give the blessings to this lecture this evening and to you and your family. E bye bye to new. 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 Ashe Lafia Ashe. Cool water. All right. Now that business was taken care of. Let's get into the subject matter of what's going on. So each season, a set of organs are at their peak. And that comes from the Chinese system. Now, let's get a little deeper than that. The Chinese system came out of the East African system. Documentation talks about the fact that the folks from East Africa migrated to the Yellow River in China. They talk about the Ne Zhang Shu Wen talks about the fact that the people of the Yellow River, they ate fish, they ate salt, and they had hypertension. And their skin was black and their hair was knotty. So the Yellow Emperor was an African who got cultivated in Asia Minor. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later as we talk about the bloodline. So when we start looking at the fact that each season, no matter where you are in the world, there's always 4 seasons. Some seasons, like where I am in Maryland, we get snow. Some seasons you get rain, or you get monsoon, or you get dust storms, or you get clouds, those kinds of things. But each season, a set of organs wind up at their peak. During fall, we wound up having lung issues. If you go back and you look, you'll see that during fall, what happened? What happened is that that's when the COVID started to hit again. Okay, we started to see more people who were infected, opposed to in the summertime. That's because of the fact that the lungs and the large intestines were at their peak. Now we've moved into winter. This is the season. This is the season of our DNA. You know, this is the season of our kidneys. This is the season of our bones. You know, this is the season that we are or we will be experiencing, you know, issues with Alzheimer's. We'll have issues with our ears, fertility, aging process. All of that has to do with what happens during this particular time and space. When we start looking at, hold on, I'm working to pull this presentation over here. Let me see. Oh, what happened to it? Still won't. Here it is. All right.
I've got it up.
Okay, I don't know if it's shared. I don't see it.
No, that's the email, but I have it. I can share it for you if you like.
Okay, I changed some things in it, but yeah. All right. Oh, okay, so it went to the email opposed to the share.
Right.
Okay, so let's stop sharing. So the piece of that is the fact that when we start to talk about winter, we have to talk about the fact that it's cold, and especially in places like the Northeast. We have to look at the fact that it's hibernation season. It would be nice if you could petition your boss to hibernate all winter and then get paid your regular salary. That would be nice to deal with the winter. However, reality sets in and that ain't really gonna happen. So the thing that happens is that as humans, we don't normally hibernate. Okay, that's not in our consciousness. But our body hibernates. Our body begins to deal with the factor of how the blood runs deep into the body and into the bones. This is why during this time, if people have Arthur winds up being more prevalent because of the fact that this is the season of the bones. And so because of that, what happens is that now the bones are in such a way where the bones have too much heat. Okay. And because it has too much heat and it has too much heat in the blood, and that heat and in the blood now is causing the bones, the blood, to not coagulate in the manner that it should. And so with that happening, what we're looking at is we're looking at the fact that now the kidneys are not doing their job. Okay, the kidneys are called the palace of life. The right kidney is the fire kidney. The left kidney is the water kidney. They have to balance. They have to balance for all kinds of different things. They balance for our immune system. They balance for our reproductive system. They balance for conception. If the kidneys are out of balance, what happens is that now you'll wind up having fertility issues. I don't know what's happening with this. You'll wind up having fertility issues. You'll wind up, oh, there it is. Okay, good. You'll wind up having fertility issues. You'll wind up having issues with impotence, thyroid, diabetes, bone health, hypertension, mental disharmonies, and a lot of things going on with the endocrine system. When you start looking at that, a lot of this stuff that's going on with the endocrine system is things that have to do with the fact of how the kidneys balance or how the kidneys do not balance. And so because the kidneys are unbalanced in terms of fire and water, then it causes things to happen within the body that as we age begin to become more prevalent. So the kidneys actually rule over conception, gestation, pregnancy, delivery, maturity, aging, and death. So the kidneys bring us in, and they can take us out. You know, we have over 78,000 people who are on dialysis. And you'll find that most of them people go on dialysis during the winter. You'll find that, and ABC did a poll that talked about the fact that during the winter, more babies are born and more people died during the winter. And so if we looked at COVID a couple of years ago, we saw that a lot of people transpired during winter. With winter, the piece of that has to do with the fact that if the kidneys are balanced, then what happens is that we then wind up having health. The respiratory illnesses that we're seeing with COVID is because of the relationship between the lungs and the kidneys. The kidneys reach up and pull down the lungs' energy so that the lungs' energy is able to stay down, and you don't have tightness of the chest or floating of the respiration. If the kidneys are invaded by the liver, then what happens is that you now wind up having tightness in the chest, mental disorders, and a lot of that happens during the winter because of the fact that that's when most of that's happening. Can we go to the next slide? So here are some things about the kidneys. Your kidneys are very important to your life. You know, they have to deal with the balance of yin and yang, which is basically the acid alkaline balance. You don't want your body too acid and you don't want it too alkaline. Your blood is 7.35. Within the contents of the 7.35, you don't want it to go no further than 8 because of the fact that after you go over 8, it could alkalosis sets in, which is just as bad as acidosis, which means that you start to take the blood out of its range, and so now you wind up having sickness. For instance, on the scale of the acid alkaline balance, bleach is at 14, okay? And so you don't want it to get to that stage, because if you do, then you have problems with it. So you kind of want to keep your blood around 7.35 and keep the kidneys in such a way where they create that balance. They rule over the bones, the DNA, and the stem cells. Within your bones houses your stem cells and your DNA. That's what happens within your bones. And in dealing with that, now you're talking about the factor of the nutrients in your bones, which has to do with vitamin D. Vitamin D, cholecalciferol, and that's vitamin D3, has to do with the fact of how it maintains the DNA and the stem cells, so that the immune system is able to support you, and it's able for you to be able to function to your optimum. Part of that also has to do with digestion, which is a big part of that. The foods that you eat, in season. You can go to my website and you can extract the foods for the seasons, because that's extremely important. You eating foods that are in season because of the fact of that, and foods that are local to your region, because of the fact of that, they're going to enhance and maintain the balance of your DNA. If we want to deal with this with this energy that's in there, that's out in the world, that they're calling COVID, which is basically energy, what we have to do is we have to begin to work on our DNA and our stem cells, and the winter is the time to do that. Reproductive, and the reproductive system has to do with the fact that our bodies have blood that is thousands of years old. Because if you look at the factor that Africa was the cradle of civilization, and during Africa and the cradle of civilization, that blood now has transformed through your relatives who came before you to get to where you are within the compounds of your DNA. And that same blood will be passed on to your children, your grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren. And so it's about how we preserve that as to how that functions. And the wintertime is the best time to do that. The sensory organs of the ears. Now, real interesting enough, if you look at the ear looks like a kidney, and it looks like a fetus. And as an acupuncturist, there's a modality we do called auricula. And auricula is using the points in the ear to reestablish the balance of the body, so that the rhythm of the body begins to function again. Also in your ears is your equilibrium. If you're feeling dizzy in the head, if you're feeling that your equilibrium is off, that has to do with your kidneys and your ears. Tinnitus is a big one. Tinnitus has to deal with the factor of the balance of your kidneys. Excuse me. It also has to do with the balance of your liver, because of the factor that too much loud noise can cause the liver to have flames, and it gets up into your head. But the kidneys have to deal with the ears, and so more likely the kidneys are having to do with the tinnitus. And tinnitus is very difficult to get rid of. It's very difficult to get rid of. The sound is groaning, and that's the sound of affairs of the bedroom. You have children, during that time, those sounds were put into air so that in the ethers, the spirit could hear that groaning, that sound, that tone. And a woman then became pregnant because of the fact that now that energy moved into her body through her kidneys. If a woman, for instance, has a kidney issue, she can have issues with fertility. if a man has issues with his kidneys, he wind up having impotence and ED. And so when you start to rebalance your kidneys, what happens is that now your kidneys will begin to work for you. And it can also assist you in longevity because of the fact that it is the most powerful element in your body is your right and left kidney. And there's nothing more powerful in the universe than what? What's the most powerful thing in the universe? Water. I mean, your body is 75% water. The planet is 75% water. And water is needed for everything that we basically do. So when you start looking at the water in that manner, you're starting to look at the fact that now the renal system, which is the kidneys, has to balance that fire and that water in your body so that your body now is able to function properly. When the kidneys are unable to create that balance, what happens? What then begins to happen is that that's when you start to have issues like diabetes, hypertension, too much sodium, okay, and not enough potassium, which now elevates the blood sugar level, and not enough magnesium, and calcium gets to the brain, and so along with vitamin D, and so now here we have Alzheimer's, or we start to have mental challenges. And so when we start to understand that we need to put those in, for instance, when you put in vitamin D3, you should put in vitamin K2, magnesium, you should put in calcium, magnesium, vitamin D, boron, and vitamin C. There's a product called Com Plus that has all of those in it. If you're taking vitamin D and you're taking vitamin D in such a way where it's in an oil or gel cap, then you should take it with a fat. So you should take it with maybe omega 3, 6, and 9, because it's going to get in that manner. You should take it if you take a piece of bread and put some butter on it, you know, like you eat a piece of toast, and then you take the vitamin D. That's going to get it into your system more. It should be taken with food, so that it has more absorbability than it did if you took it without that. Now, Com Plus is different. Com Plus has to do with a powder. So growing up, they used to have these things called frizzies. They used to be in a stick like this here that was like Kool-Aid, and you drop it in there, and or you drop it down like this here. That's what it tastes like. Okay. And so with that, it'll get into your system and it'll start to get into your bones. Ladies, you know, if you're in that group where men are that started to pause, you know, Com Plus is good for you. Okay. It'll help to also ward off osteoporosis. And so vitamin D helps all of that, and it helps the stem cells as well as it helps the DNA. Its color is black or blue. When you see people who have dark circles around their eyes, or their complexion's real dark, you know, if you look at someone who has who's on dialysis, you'll see that their complexion is dark. That has to do with their kidneys. Now, dialysis can be reversed. Okay. Yeah, dialysis can be reversed, but it's about what you do to do that. When we start talking about medical science looks at it in terms of it can't. When you start looking at it in terms of traditional Chinese medicine, it has been proven to be reversed. There's a set of herbs that I actually make, which is called Lu Wei Di Wang Wen. And Lu Wei Di Wang Wen has been researched in terms of, you can actually Google it, and it'll tell you about the fact of it working to reverse dialysis. Because dialysis is heat, and that's heat in the blood. That's just like diabetes. Diabetes is heat in the blood. And so as long as you have heat in the blood, you're not going to have that coolness of the body. And that coolness, and not having that coolness of the body now allows for the body to have other kinds of things going on, which are dealing with the health challenges on the heat, waste, and diseases. Because of the fact that winter has to deal with the bones, it's the ancestral season. It has to deal with the DNA. It has to deal with vitamin D, which is the ancestral vitamin. It has to deal with the factor of how our blood is infused with generations before us. And so when we start looking at it, this is the most spiritual time that there is, because of the fact that it has to do with the kidneys, which the kidneys are the foundation of spirit. Again, as I said earlier, if a woman has issues with her kidneys, and more specifically her left kidney, her water kidney, she will have issues conceiving. If a male has issues with his left or his right kidney, he'll have issues impregnating a woman. And so because of that, what you're looking at is you're looking at the fact that this is the spiritualist time of the year. The emotions of fear, kindness, and willpower. And last year or the year before last, we got so much fear due to that element that's in the street, that virus, that it passed over into spring. And as it passed over to spring, then that's when the anxiety came in. That's when the depression really hit, because of the fact that we carry that fear over to then. But the other piece of that is the fact that we saw kindness. We saw all kinds of kindness where we hadn't seen kindness before, because of the fact that people just weren't into that. But during the winter, we saw people giving out food. We saw people helping to administer tests. I mean, all kinds of things which had to do with their kindness. And then when we start looking at the willpower, we have to now begin to look at the factor of how the willpower will function and how our willpower works in conjunction with the kindness and the reduction of fear. Mother used to say, faith and fear can't live in the same house. So you either gonna have fear in the house or you're gonna have faith. And if you have fear in the house, then you're always going to be fearful. But if you bring faith in, then faith will get rid of fear. And in doing that, what happens is that now you find yourself living a faithful life that has to do with positivity. And then manifest into the hair. When we see young men specifically who head hair is receding, or they're losing their hair at young ages, anything other than 56 years old, that automatically talks about a kidney issue. Now, that kidney issue could be Could be hereditary, which came from someone on his side of the family. For instance, when a woman has too many children back to back, let's say a woman has 7 children and they're a year apart, it wears out her gene. So later on down the line, she's gonna have issues with her kidneys, where the children in her bloodline are going to start to have issues. Some of them issues is hypertension. Some of them issues is diabetes, autoimmune deficiency syndrome, multiple sclerosis, heart disease, because of the fact that woman didn't have enough gene for all her children. And gene is basically essence from your grandparents that moves forward in your life. Same thing for a man, so that young man winds up having kidney issues. And at 25, 30 years old, he starts to have hypertension and diabetes. And diabetes is really running rampant, and even more rampant now than it has been. A lot of that has to do with the foods that we're eating. A lot of that has to do with the thoughts that we're thinking. And then a lot of that has to do with how the DNA is being preserved. And then salty taste. If you're craving salt, or bitters, you may have a kidney issue. Lower back pain doesn't mean it's structural. Lower back pain can be identified as kidneys, you know. But if you're craving salt, okay, then what happens is that now you're talking about a kidney issue. And ladies, your hair shouldn't thin, and it shouldn't fall out. Okay, when it does, that's a kidney issue. You know, your hair from 14 on, your hair should be growing, and it shouldn't turn silver until you're 49. So that what happens is that your head hair maintains its balance. But if your kidneys are not functioning properly, for instance, if you have hypertension, okay, then that says that you have a kidney issue. So part of one of the pieces that you can do for hypertension is CoQ10. Okay, CoQ10, what that does is Vicreon. What it does is it begins to reestablish the rhythm of the heart, which now assists the kidneys in creating the balance that they need in order for them to function properly for you. You know, those are some of the things. Next slide. So we're talking about, you know, Africa. And as we move through Africa, you know, Africa is the cradle of civilization. And so with that being the case, what we start to look at is we really start to look at the fact that in all of those countries in Africa, our bloodline came from. And it came from there because of the transportation that happened and the thieving that happened to our ancestors. Next slide. So our ancestors and the bloodline has a lot to do with how our bodies will function as we grow older, and what kinds of things that we need in order to maintain the balance of the body during this time. For instance, with this energy out there of COVID, We should make sure that our kidneys are functioning properly. We should also make sure that our immune system is functioning. Our immune system is what is causing us to be able to function to our optimum. Our immune system comes from our stem cells, which have to do with every element of our body, which is cultivated in our bones, our DNA. So we have to begin to reinforce those. We have to allow our body to function with those, which goes back to the fact that the foods that our ancestors ate are different than the foods we eat and that we've eaten, because of the fact that the foods that we eat now are adulterated. I was talking to Brother Bill earlier about the fact that the foods that we eat now are not the same foods that our ancestors ate or that we ate as children, especially if you're in the age of 50 or older. And so because we're eating more foods that's creating more fire, inflammation, we're finding that we have less water in the body. And because we have less water, then our DNA, stem cells, and our immune system isn't taking care of us in the manner that it should. We need to stay away from things like soda. The phosphates in the soda reduces the ability of calcium to combine to bind with the body, which means that now that's going to cause osteoporosis. We need to stay away from foods that are gelatinous. Okay. And the foods that are gelatinous, we're talking about during the winter, we're talking about breads and pastas and fried foods, because those are the foods that cause mucus. And mucus is what causes that inflammation. We don't have to have arthritis, rheumatism, cancer. We don't have to have none of that. But we have it because of the fact of several different things. One of the pieces is the fact that we have it because of the fact that we are eating foods that's not supporting our body. And I know as we age, it's like, I'm not ready to change what I'm eating. And that's well and good for people who want to do that. But the aging process is a process that's going to continue until you leave the planet. And so if we begin to work with it in such a way where we maintain the ability of eating foods that are fresh, nothing out of the can, eating foods that will allow for nourishment to happen. Take digestive enzymes. Okay. Because when you take digestive enzymes, what happens? What happens is that now you're digesting the food properly. So now your body's going to get the nutrients from it, opposed to the fact that your body is not getting nutrients. And so because the body's not getting nutrients, now you're suffering from malnutrition. And see, malnutrition, we've been shown that malnutrition is the little children from Africa and India and all them places where their abdomen is protruding. Malnutrition is that when your abdomen is distended and protruding. Your abdomen should not be distended and it should not be protruding. Your bowels should move on a consistent basis every day. And there should not be any odor when you go plop, plop, fizz, fizz. What a wonderful feeling this is. Okay. When there's an odor that says that the foods that you're eating have been in there too long. And so instead of you receiving nutrients, you're receiving waste. The probiotics will go into the small intestines. And what happens in the small intestines is the factor that you will then begin to feel the difference in the bowel movement. You'll begin to feel the difference in your immune system, because your immune system, 95% of your immune system is also in your small intestines. And so the small intestines and the bones and the kidneys all function together so that you maintain the DNA and your ability for the stem cells to invigorate your cells so that you maintain health. You know, when we start looking at COVID, what we're looking at is we're looking at the fact that if we enhance our immune system, and our immune system was built if we were breastfed. That's how our immune system was, because of the fact of the colostrum and the antibodies from our mother's breast milk is what increased and promoted the DNA, as well as the stem cells and our immune system, and put that gut flora in there. When we were giving cow's milk, we wound up with thrush, which is basically candida. Candida's wicked. You don't want candida. Candida's worse than cancer. Candida will take your eyes, your limbs, your hearing, you know, because it's corrosion. You want to make sure that you prepare your immune system, and especially as we age, because during the aging process, what happens? What happens is that the body begins to decline. That's how we wind up being sicker as we become elderly. And then the medications that we're given has to do with the factor of the body not functioning to maintain immunity. And so we need to put in foods that, you know, that's going to support the DNA. We need to put in foods that's going to support the stem cells, as well as we need to be able to activate vitamin D, because when we activate vitamin D, what happens is that activation now increases immunity, and it allows for the kidneys and the bones to function properly, and it allows for the bodies for the blood to begin to function in a acid alkaline balance that is going to establish the balance of your ability for your blood to have enough alkalinity to it to get rid of anything that is that comes in to try and disturb it. And so that's the piece of that. When we start talking about foods, you know, we have to talk about the fact that you should really have an understanding of your blood type. Okay. because your blood type is what rules your body. And so because of the fact that your blood type is ruling your body in that manner, excuse me, in that manner, now is the time to deal with the factor of how your blood type is. There's 4 major, and if we could go down to that on the slides, go down some more, right here. There are 4 different types of blood, your blood type. Now, one of the ways to find out what your blood type is to see if your doctor will do it for you. If not, then you can give blood to the Red Cross. I think they're still taking people's blood, even though COVID's out there in the world. But they will tell you what group your blood is in. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you understand your blood type so that you understand what food you should be eating and what food you shouldn't be eating. You also want to make sure that the blood type works for you in such a way where your body is functioning to its optimum, and your DNA, stem cells, and your immune system is functioning to its optimum. We can't create immunity, but we can enhance it. And it's about what we do and what we eat to enhance the immunity. And as we get younger in life, we wind up and the body doesn't function at the same. I talk about the roller coaster concept. And if any of you ever rode a roller coaster, you know how that bad boy go, right? It go click, 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 click. And when it get to the top, it go boom. And that's 50. That's when you get that card, that little red card that say AARP. Yeah, that's when stuff start coming downhill. You know what I mean? And for some reason, they know that you get ready to come downhill. So they say, well, let's make sure you get your card, and so with that, you want to, and if you're over the age of 50, this is the time to really zero in on your health. If you're taking pharmaceuticals, then try to work to reduce the pharmaceuticals. Okay, and there's ways to do that. The first way has to do with your elbow. Your elbow bend and your mouth fly open. So that's the first way. Second, understand what's on your plate. See, because what's on your plate determines how your body's going to function. We can't eat the same foods as the Europeans. As a matter of fact, our health, we didn't start getting what they used to call sugar and all of those kinds of things. We didn't start getting those until we moved off the farm. That's when we started, and we moved to the cities, and we started eating prepackaged food, and the food wasn't as fresh as it was before. And that's when we started to really come up with health challenges, and the ones that we have that's so devastating within our community. And so with that, you know, now you want to maintain the fact of balancing your blood. See, because if you balance your blood, you can live long life. You know, our ancestors, they lived past 100. You know, it wasn't nothing for them to, and they was dancing and having a good time, you know, at 120 years old. You know, they weren't talking about, oh, well, Arthur around, you know. No, we got Arthur because of the fact that we started eating foods that we should have not have eaten. This is the season to eat fish. Now, if you're a vegan, make sure your blood type will balance that. Okay, make sure that it'll balance that, because see, the thing about that is veganism is a good modality. However, no one's looking at the long haul consequences of it, okay, and its relationship to your blood type. So if you're vegan, that's fine. You know, if you're a meat eater, that's fine. But the piece of it is that make sure you support your blood, because your blood is what works for you in terms of dealing with your health. In terms of this energy called COVID, you know, there are several things that you can do, yeah, to maintain that. Elderberries, you know, that's one of the formulas that I make with a few other things in it. You know, echinacea. You know, these are things that, you know, you might want to pick up. Green vegetables. If you eat green vegetables for 2 weeks, nothing but green vegetables, and take liquid chlorophyll, you'll begin to find that you increase your DNA, you increase your red blood cells, your erythrocytes. You will begin to proliferate the blood and cleanse the blood, because of the fact that that green color of those greens, and that we see in the trees, that chlorophyll is cleansing. You can buy liquid chlorophyll. I always tell people to make sure that it has mint to it, because of the fact that they have some that has mint and some that doesn't have mint. And the ones that have mint doesn't taste like chalk. To me, the one that has mint tastes like chalk, and that's only my preference. Okay. You know, you would buy it and then determine how you want to do that, and you would take like a tablespoon a day. Now, don't spill it on anything, because it'll turn it green. And so when we start looking at that, you know, we're looking at things that's going to clean the blood and fortify the kidneys. Because if we can fortify the kidneys, then the kidneys will enhance the lungs. And it will get the liver to course, where the liver now will do a process called cytochrome P450, which is how the liver detoxifies the body. But again, you have to stay away from certain types of foods, because if you begin to eat foods, that are gelatinous, sugary, you're breaking down your DNA and your stem cells. If you're craving sugar, I'm gonna give you a recipe. take an 8-ounce glass and take a tablespoon of steel, S-T-E-E-L, cut oats or old-fashioned oats, and put it in the glass. And fill the glass with distilled water. And the reason you would use distilled water is because distilled water has a pH balance of 7 and it doesn't have anything in it. So what it's going to do is it's going to absorb the nutrients from the water into the water from the oats. Now, set a cover over top of it, set it over on the kitchen table or counter overnight away from heat. In the morning, strain off the water. Now, if you decide you want to eat the oatmeal, that's fine. But strain off the water and drink the water. Now, for people who have taste sensitivities, I got to do a disclaimer. I have no idea what it's going to taste like. Okay? I do know that some people say, oh, that tastes real good. But other people may say, I don't know about that. So I'm going to put the disclaimer out there so that you say, well, he did disclaim, you know. But I think it tastes pretty good. But what you'll see is within maybe even 24 hours that your sweet cravings reduce. And see, the sweet cravings are because of the fact that you're suffering from malnutrition. That's what sweet cravings are. You know, you want to go across the room, and so your body says, you want to go across the room? Let's eat that cookie on the table. You eat that cookie on the table, and you go across the room. You get across the room, and you over there for a few minutes, and then and you say, well, I want to go back across the room, and your body say, yeah, well, get this other cookie, eat this cookie, and I'm gonna take you back across the room. See, because you had no energy, because the foods that you eat are not giving you the energy that you need. When you take things like the oatmeal water, that gives you nutrients. And it's wonderful. If you have diabetes, it's wonderful for that. Okay, because of the fact that it has chromium percolinate in it. And what chromium does, excuse me, what chromium does is it makes it so that it breaks down glucose, allows glucose to go into the cells, as well as how it breaks down the adipose tissue. The adipose tissue is the fatty tissue of the body. So if you think that you got a little too much integrity on your body, you may want to try this and see how it melts some of that integrity, you know. But yeah, when you do that, you'll begin to see that your body changes, and especially if you have things like diabetes. If you're dealing with things like hypertension, seaweed helps, sea vegetables, kelp, okay. Dose, dose kelp, kombu, you know, sea herbs help because of the fact that they're balanced with potassium and sodium. And hypertension is the fact that you have more sodium than you have potassium. Also, the chlorophyll helps, okay, because the chlorophyll is going to help to balance the electrolytes, and that's the piece that you want to do. You want to be able to balance the electrolytes, because when you balance the electrolytes, you're now balancing the acid alkaline balance in the body, So now the body is not going to be full of acidity. And so because it's full of acidity, what now happens is that now your body is going to reduce the elevation of your blood sugar level, but also of your blood elevation of your hypertension, excuse me. And so those are some of the things that you can do. Now, if for any reason that you're taking chemotherapy, combo, or you work in the radiology department, combo and navy beans, okay, they help to reduce the radiation poisoning. The same thing with mushrooms, shakti, portobello, you know, because mushrooms have glutathione. Not glutathione. They have well, they do, but they have beta glucan. And so beta glucan is a flavonoid. And what flavonoids do is flavonoids go in and get rid of free radicals. Okay. And they act as antioxidants. So when you put mushrooms, for instance, in your dish, okay, what happens then is you're now activating the beta glucans in there. So that's going to now work to invigorate your DNA and your stem cells. Lion's mane, you know, I mean, there's several of them. I make a formula that has 7 of them in there. But those are the kinds of things that we need to put in our system now to work through this energy crisis that we're in called coronavirus. So that we're able to enrich our blood and maintain the balance of our blood so that we're not depending on whether or not the vaccination, and if you vaccinated, that's a wonderful thing. And if you ain't, that's a wonderful thing. But we're not depending on that. See, because whether you're vaccinated or not, the piece is that you have to maintain the integrity of your digestive tract, your stem cells, your DNA, and the ability for your body to extract nutrients from the foods that you're eating. A lot of people are having issues because their body's not extracting nutrients from the foods they're eating. And so you want to do that. That's why I talk about, if you ever come on to any of the programs that I talk about, you'll always hear me talk about digestive enzymes and probiotics. If you don't have nothing else in your house, no food, nothing, you should have those 2 in your house. So that it balances the flora in your gut, and it establishes digestion so that your body increases the nutrients and it begins to get rid of the waste byproducts from the foods that you're eating, which should come out of the body 8 to 24 hours after you eat them. When they don't, that becomes the issue. If you're having issues with Alzheimer's or mental challenges, my dear, we done surpassed that PowerPoint. So we might as well even just take it down, because I've been coming out of my head.
Thank you. I was trying to see, did I completely blow that following through thing? But I'll take it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. you know, I think I was able to paint pictures for people. So we'll see how that works. But yeah, yeah. So the piece of that, the piece of that is being able to incorporate things that work well for your system. See, you have to also understand that you're an individual. And even though your DNA is the same as your sister or your brothers, it's different. So that you're in a space where your DNA may function in such a manner for you, opposed to the same thing that could go on for your sister or your brother. When I wrote my thesis, which was on diabetes, there was a research that I found that talked about twins. And it talked about the fact that the DNA of the twins were not the same. And that because of that, one of them had one kind of thing going on and the other one had another kind of thing going on. And they had to treat them differently. And so our DNA is unique to our personality and our bodies type. And so we want to make sure that we eat healthy. We want to make sure that we don't fall into insulin resistance, because that's another one that's deep in our community, as well as cancer, multiple sclerosis. And the interesting thing about multiple sclerosis is the fact that it's actually attacking women more than men. And that has to do with the myelin sheath of the nervous system on the spinal cord, which means that here we now need to take things like omega-3, 6, and 9, fatty acids. As we age or get younger in life, we should be taking in fatty acids so that our nervous system is able to function for us and reduce things that could come up like Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, lack of mental clarity. Because when we put those things in, the body then begins to function with them. And the body works in that manner. We don't have to age and be sick. We don't. But it's about what we do. It's about the changes that we make. It's about how we deal with those changes and how we want to move forward in life. See, because if we begin to understand that, I'm gonna go back to our elbow. Our elbow, bends and our mouth flies open, and we put in the wrong stuff, the body has to figure out what to do with it. That's like when you eat a sandwich, that choke sandwich. Now I know that most people on here that have one of them choke sandwiches, that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I know that. Okay. When you eat that choke sandwich, that peanut butter sometimes, especially if it was that peanut butter that the government gave you. You know, that peanut butter was thick and it wasn't able, you were really trying to break it down in your mouth, you know, but that peanut butter gets sticky up in there. And so it then stopped the ability of the jelly to be broken down in the spleen. So that caused constipation. But sandwiches, even a sandwich that you got a piece of bread, some meat, you know, some lettuce, that kind of thing. Sandwiches aren't good for you. Yeah, I know. I know. It's a quick food, but it ain't good for you unless the sandwich is nothing but vegetables. Because starch breaks down in the mouth. Proteins break down in the stomach. Fats, lipids, and sugars break down in the small intestines. And so if those foods are not breaking down in those areas, then what happens is that when they get down into the small intestines, they wind up taking a number, go and sit way over in the corner somewhere, and 2-3 years later, 50 years later, they start to come out. But during that whole time that they up in there, they still cooking because the body's 98.6 degrees. And you know, you got this aroma that keeps following you. You know what I mean? When that aroma come out, you can't run from it. You know, you be like, frick, and be trying to get away from it, and for some reason it gets in front of you, opposed to being from behind you. You know, that kind of thing. And so that's because of the fact that all of that stuff that went inside is fermented and putrefying, and what you're smelling sulfur and methane that's coming from your intestinal tract. And so, you know, it's like, oops, excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. And folks be like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go over here and get a little fresh air. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So we really should be careful of what we eat and how we eat what we eat. Because of the fact that we need to make sure that the food breaks down in the locations that it should. You know, we should be taking multivitamins and multi-minerals, you know, because of the fact that, or we should be taking some sort of minerals, okay, that's going to allow us to get the minerals in our body, because we need those minerals, and especially as we age, you know. But you know, no matter what's going on with you, you can heal. You know, it's our birthright. But it's about the foods that we intake. It's about the consciousness. You know, it's about the changing of our consciousness. It's about understanding that some of the foods that we used to eat, we can't eat anymore because of the fact that they don't have what we need in order for us to function. We can also deal with the factor of eating foods that are local. Go back to that. See, because that's what helped our ancestors to be healthy. When they was on the farms, that's all they ate. Whatever was local and whatever grew in that season. Where now, you know, we have the world, so we can eat anything and everything. And then we mix every and everything together. Because we eat for taste and not health. And so we should think about the fact of we should eat for health and not for taste. Because of the fact that if we eat for health, then what happens is that now we are able to maintain health and longevity. I'm trying to make sure there's some people around when I turn 150 years old so I can talk to them you know, because them young people, they got their own language, you know, and I'm gonna be up there scratching my head trying to figure out what they saying. So I need people around who's gonna turn 150, 130, you know, I mean, that kind of thing, because of the fact that we can do this. You know, we can do this. But it's about eating clean. You know, it's about thought patterns. It's about prayer. You know, one of the biggest pieces that went along with our ancestors, even with them being on them ships, they prayed. Everything started with a prayer. Everything started with a prayer. We didn't sit down and eat dinner without a prayer. Yeah. And I had somebody one time say, well, why you pray before you eat? Because the ancestors said, put your energy in that food so that energy will provide you with the nutrients that you need. You see, I mean, but you know, we lost some of those traditions because of that. That's like, we should have altars, ancestral altars. You know, you go in the Asian store and up in the corner, you see the altar. You know, you see that they give that they give that they give the ancestors water and coffee, you know, those kinds of things. When you got trouble in your mind, that's the time to go sit at that altar. You know, it's real easy to put up an altar. You know, and it don't have to deal with anything that has to do religious. It's about honor. Put pictures of your ancestors, put a glass of water and a candle. And in times of trouble, sit there and talk to them. See, because as long as you call their name, they always live. It's when we don't call their name that they wind up having issues. So because of that, what happens? What happens is that we wind up getting clarity of our ori, our head. So that we reduce the stress that's in our life. So that we have an understanding of what it is that we need to do in order to maintain the balance of life and our sanity. Because of the fact that within the compounds of the way that we're living now, most of us trying to figure out what sanity is. You know, because of the fact that you hear this over here, and this over here, and this over here, and this. And so, you know, I was listening to the news earlier, and they were talking about the fact that CDC got everybody confused. So with CDC having everybody confused, but they're supposed to be the leaders. So we have to begin to work within the compounds of our ancestors to guide us through these times, to help us to guide our children through these times. Because of the fact that we need to put more prayer in our life. We need to put our ancestors in our life. Fasting. Fasting is a wonderful modality. Our ancestors fasted. They would fast at church once a week. And now you have churches that do that. When you fast within each season, you create the balance for the set of organs in that season. So that the body then begins to clean out and the body begins to fortify and the blood. And as it does all of that, what happens now is that now your body is in a state where you're actually working for the harmony of your body, your mind, your spirit. And so fasting is monumental. Yeah. And even if you do it for a day, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, that's the piece. So that you have what you need to assist you in overcoming what it is that you needed for you. And so healing is your birthright, as I said earlier. Find what works for you. Find methods that'll help you to heal. Because we all need healing. We all need healing. And if we begin to understand that and work towards that, we'll see that life is different than we thought it was. Thank you. Be well. Enjoy your life as you peacefully walk in health. And if there's any questions, I will entertain them now.
Thank you. I was curious about foods for the seasons and how one may go about ascertaining those foods.
So if you go onto my website, you can download a chart like this here. Okay. Actually, you can download all 4 of them. This is more for the East Coast. However, foods that grow on the West Coast are somewhat different. And some of the foods are there for the winter because of the fact that you wouldn't have the snow, so you would find other kinds of foods. But the thing is that that chart will get you started of eating foods for the winter.
Okay, thank you.
Especially where we're dealing with this energy in the universe called COVID. And this is, it's real interesting. And I don't know how many people are vegans and that kind of thing. But it's real interesting that chicken soup has, I don't know what's in chicken soup, but chicken soup is powerful, And so during this time, we should be dealing with some chicken soup, okay? To kind of keep them antibodies off of us. Now, I would say if you use chicken soup, make sure it's free range. Stay away from pesticides, herbicides, all of those kinds of things, because of the fact that they pollute the body, and the body now is unable to break them down.
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
How do people select their foods and understand their DNA if they have mixed ancestry? There are some people that are part African, part Native American, part European, and so they have a mixture of DNA in their system. How do they decide what foods and what things are best for the kidney or for their?
So the thing with that is this. That's why it's important to understand your blood and your blood type. See, because all of that is wrapped up in your blood type.
Okay.
So let's say that you have a blood type. That blood type came out of Asia, where the migration happened. Say you have O blood. O came out of Africa, which came out of the origin of the blood. So you would eat foods, for instance, if you had O blood, you would actually be a carnivore. You would eat fish and chicken and beef and that kind of thing, because that would unite your blood cells. But if you were, if you had O and you were vegan, then what would happen is that then you'd have to eat some foods that would give your DNA what it needs. For instance, mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, those kinds of things. Because what they'll do is they'll not only reinforce the DNA, but they'll also maintain the balance of the blood, the integrity of the blood cell. And so because of that integrity, what then happens is that now the body will begin to respond to that, and you begin to see a difference. And especially if you have some sort of illness going on, you'll begin to see that the illness then begins to change, because of the fact that you're putting in foods that's supporting your blood, and your blood is now supporting your DNA.
I have several questions, but I don't want to hog up all the time. So if there's time, I'll ask some other ones. But one question is, with all of the various supplements and everything that you suggested, do we take that like continuously forever? I mean, it just sounds like a whole bunch of stuff. How do we know if something that we're taking isn't conflicting with something else? So is it an ongoing, we always take these things?
So when you start taking supplements, and understand the word supplement, which means that you're supplementing the nutrients for the foods. So things that you would take would be the digestive enzymes. Okay. Because of the fact that that's going to help to regulate digestion. The probiotics, that's going to help to balance the flora in your gut. Okay. Those are two major pieces. Then, to keep the flow and the rhythm of the heart, you might want to take some Q10, CoQ10. And what I tell people is 5 and 2. 5 days on and 2 days off. See, because whatever it is that you take, except for the digestive enzymes, what happens is that you don't want them to build up into your system. You want your body to be able to function for you. That's why when people take pharmaceuticals, what happens to them is that they wind up taking pharmaceuticals, and then they wind up having adverse effects. And the adverse effects is that the liver winds up becoming overloaded. And so the liver's trying to detox, and it's not able to. So now you have side effects. When you take any kind of supplement, other than probiotics and digestive enzymes, take them 5 and 2. And what I tell people is that take them Monday through Friday, and don't take them Saturday and Sunday. Also, if you're taking pharmaceuticals, I normally say, an hour to 2 hours after you've taken the pharmaceutical. And then don't just take everything all at once. Space it out. For instance, let's say that you do take Q10. And let's say that you're taking something for author. Okay. So you would space that out and see how your body reacted to both of those. And if you got good feeling, which means that your energy got pumped up, which means that your body, your body did exactly what you wanted it to do, then what that says is it's working for you. Okay. But if you take it and let's say you get a headache, then what I say to people is that back off of it and wait a couple of days and then give more time in between and then try taking it again. See, because just like, I hate to put it this way, just like the pharmaceutical companies doing experiments with your body, you have to do experiments with your body when you start to talk about doing things naturally and moving them out of the way of you having to take pharmaceuticals. See, because with pharmaceuticals build up in your system, and you wind up and the pharmaceutical no longer works, and so now you got to put in new pharmaceuticals. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, I wanted to know the difference between digestive enzymes and probiotics.
Okay, so digestive enzymes, they help to break down starch in the mouth, protein in the stomach, lipids, fats, sugars, and starches in the small intestines. Probiotics go into the small intestines and it helps the absorption of nutrients, as well as it breaks down sugar, so that it increases immunity, because 90% of our immunity is in our small intestines.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
What is the best way to have a one-on-one consultation with you?
You can go to the website and you can set it up there. I would suggest that if you're going to do that, because of me being part of WOSE, send me an email and I'll send you a coupon that will reduce the cost.
Okay.
And so what will happen is this: you'll send me 4 pictures of your tongue. I want to see from the tip of your tongue to the back of your mouth. I don't want to see your face, and that's not to be disrespectful, but it's so that I can see what's going on with your body from your tongue. But I do want 1 picture of your face with your mouth closed and no glasses. You would email those to me. I would email you back and let you know that I got them. And then you could go on the website and you can then set your appointment up. And the appointment is through a web portal called doxy.me, and it's HEPA protected. And what'll happen is when you register, you'll get the link to it. Also on the website, you'll see health intake form. I suggest you fill that out and send that to me as well. That form is 12 pages long. I ask a lot of questions.
Okay, so is this through your www.healingarts.net?
It is.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, this is Judy from Atlanta. How are you, everybody?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm sorry. How are you, brother? And I'm also saying greetings to everybody, the guests. I really enjoyed your presentation. It was so informative. And thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for spending that time this evening with me, where you could have been doing a whole lot of other things. So I appreciate the fact that all of the people who who gave me some time to enlighten them as well as enlighten myself.
Well, I was gonna say it's recorded, so I plan, and I'm sure others plan to share it with as many friends and people as we can. It's very good information. Thank you.
You're welcome. I started this journey. Well, the journey started for me when I was 9 years old. My mother was a healer, and women in my bloodline were healers, and I didn't want to do this. My piece was I wanted to win the Pulitzer Prize, and God decided that, yeah, okay, that's not what I want you to do. And so I went off and went to school in Canada and in China, and here in the United States to learn natural medicine. And I really started the journey in 1974. And so as I'm walking in my 70s, I'm seeing that that has paid off for me, because of some of the people that I treat and some of the people who are my age and older, and some of the things that they have going on with their body. And so my whole piece is to see how I can get all of you young people to be healthy as longevity sets in. I also am in the process of putting together a Saturday morning class called the Elders Suite. No, that's Friday. That's on Friday mornings. It's called the Elders Suite. And the Elders Suite will be about introducing some of the stuff that I introduced this evening, but things like Qigong, things like helping to reduce pain and stiffness and that kind of thing. I know I don't like pain, and I definitely don't like stiffness. You know, and so I figured that there was some other people like me that didn't like it as well. You know, so yeah, that should be coming up later on in the month of January. It's been on my heart for a while, and so I'm going to work to do that. And like I said, I'm a licensed acupuncturist. I have a PhD in nutrition. I've written 5 books, and my thesis was on diabetes, which is a book called Sweet Mysteries of Life, a handbook book for naturally reducing or eliminating diabetes mellitus, because of the fact that it's so prevalent in our community. And, you know, our children are starting to be plagued with it. And so, you know, we need to be able to figure out how to get them to healthy, you know, because
Is your website handy?
it is.
Where is it? Is it in the chat?
I believe it is.
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Okay.
I saw it.
Thank you.
Dr. Akmal, the elders suite, is your approach a comprehensive approach in terms of food, diet, and exercise, or are you focusing in on the food component as it applies to older individuals?
It's a comprehension of several different things. Each week, I'm not sure what I'm gonna teach. Okay. I'm gonna teach it from a standpoint where you will be able to have an understanding of what to do with your body. We're gonna talk about foods. We're gonna talk about exercise. We're gonna talk about breathing. We're going to talk about points, acupoints, and how to invigorate them. that kind of thing. So it's gonna be all of that.
I see.
We'll talk about things like the collard green. You know, if you got Arthur, wrap that joint around with that collard green around that joint, and put an 8th bandage on it and go to sleep with it. And in the morning, you'll be surprised as to how the pain done different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So it's gonna be a lot of different things.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I have 2 more questions.
All right.
One is there a resource that you can go to that will tell you based on your blood type, the things that you said, you know, we need to do things according to our blood type. So is there a resource for that somewhere?
Yeah. It's called Dr. Google.
Oh, okay. Okay, so if I just Google what's good for my blood type.
Right. If
I'll
you
get
if you Google if you Googled what's it called? Blood type. Hold on a minute. Let me see what it is. Yeah, what's it? Understanding blood types.
Okay.
If you Google that, what will happen is that you'll begin to see you'll begin to see that that it'll give you each type. It'll talk about the migration, all of that. But there's also a book that's called Eat for Your Blood Type. And I'm quite sure you can buy that on Amazon.
Okay. And then my other question is, would you be okay with Mama Darnisha sharing your, putting your PowerPoint in the chat? Is that something that you prefer not?
Well, I mean, she can put it in there, you know, if that's what she desires.
Okay.
You know, although I didn't stay with it.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
it has a lot of good information.
and that's a normal thing for me. You know, I set them up so that I could stay on course, and then sometimes I get off course.
Yeah.
So, you know, I talk a lot.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the information.
Thank you. But good. But yeah, she can share it.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions? Good.
Well, if nobody else is answering, I have one more. Remember, I said I had a few.
Go
So
ahead.
when you said that hair should not thin for women, do you mean like forever not thin?
Right.
Wow. So I'm doing something wrong then. Okay.
Because the Chinese say when a woman turns 7 times 7, the Tian Kui should stop, to cease to exist. The Tian Kui is the heavenly water that starts at 14 and should stop at 49, which is known as the menstruation. At 14, the hair grows long. At 49, the hair should be where it's supposed to be, and the hair will start to turn silver. When Minna decides to pause, what happens is that Minna then works on the kidneys. The kidneys work on the head hair, the bones, the reproductive system, your libido, and your brain memory. And so when you work within the compounds of creating the balance of the kidneys, which this is the kidney season, then you begin to see that the hair begins to grow again.
But turning gray is normal after a certain age. That doesn't mean you're diseased in any kind of way.
Right. The hair doesn't turn gray.
Oh.
It turns silver.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
You see, we've been taught through the European experience that it turns gray. You know, and the reality of that is that it's not gray, it's silver.
Yeah.
Which
well, mine is silver, very silver.
which is very, 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 very good amongst women of African descent.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I can understand why women would dye their hair, but you know, and when you put that dye in your hair, you actually are attacking your kidneys.
Oh, wow.
That's like with perms, you're attacking your kidneys because of the kidneys rule over the head hair. So yeah.
Thank you. Because I was definitely thinking about dyeing it.
Yeah.
But I guess I won't now.
Yeah. Wow. I think it looks beautiful. You know, I mean, I do. You know, and the interesting thing is that when you dye it, you can see the silver through the dye. You know, you can see what's silver and what was black. You know, so you know, but I like it in terms of it's shining through, and it's shining through that provides the essence of life of women of African descent in the diaspora.
Yeah, thank you.
I have one other quick question.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand the DNA and how it functions in relation to the seasons, because DNA in some parts of the motherland would be in summer for what we would call winter here.
Right.
So as we deal with everything here in this environment, we may be doing winter, but our DNA is saying, no, you were born in summer, or you were born in spring, or you were born rainy season.
And
so
what happens is that it's the temperament of the atmosphere in which you're living in that determines the fact of what happens to your DNA.
Okay.
You know? Yeah, I just got back from Africa, and it was hot. But when I got back here, it was cold, and my bones said, well, you know, we're in the cold now, right? And I was like, yeah, I do understand that. So let me put some things together for the bones, because of the factor of the transformation of the body type. It's like, you know, so you go from, let's say you go from Florida to Africa, and you find yourself winding up with diarrhea. And the diarrhea is because of the fact that the body is trying to create the balance for that change. Okay. That's like when I travel outside of the country for at least a month before I travel. I work to eat that food so that my body gets used to that food, because I know I'm gonna be, my whole body's going to change.
Mhm.
The biggest change is that 12 to 14-hour flight.
Mhm.
That's the biggest change.
Mhm.
And so with that, what happens now is the fact that, you know, your bones, your liver, your kidneys, your digestive tract, all of that's going to change
Mhm.
because of the fact that you've made a transformation in a different kind of manner. That's why when you come back, you got jet lag.
Mhm. So the foods that you ate when you were in one season,
Mm-hmm.
and you go at the same period of time into another season, your body just automatically does the shifting, and you then have to change your foods.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because your body's going to shift.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, this is the season not to eat gelatinous foods. Gelatinous foods are foods that are mucus forming. Breads, pastas, cakes, cookies, pies, you know, ice cream, dairy products. Dairy products are the worst food in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the only dairy product that you should eat would be yogurt, and it should be plain Greek yogurt with no fruit in it. It's bitter and it's sour. Outside of that, you shouldn't eat dairy products at all.
Right.
And it's interesting. It's interesting that cows came from Europe. Cows didn't come from Africa, and they didn't come from Turtle Island. They came from Europe. You know, the Europeans. And so in Africa, you know, you'll see some cows, more so bulls, but you see that they got more goats, you know. And the interesting thing is that goat milk has the same antibodies as mother's breast milk with 3% less fat.
Mm-hmm.
So in places like Africa and Jamaica and the Caribbean, where folks is getting goat's milk, although you know, in those countries they're breastfeeding more.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is that the milk is supporting their DNA and their stem cells and their immune system. Where cow's milk causes inner ear infections and thrush and candida. Whilst researching my book, I always get them mixed up. I don't remember whether it was Georgetown or George Washington University, but they did a study on infants and cow's milk, and they found that the children wound up having inner ear infections, constipation, okay, and runny noses. So yeah, dairy products ain't good at all. And you know, what other animal in God's kingdom do you know that drinks milk from another species after they've been weaned from their mother's breast? Humans. You know? And so the piece of that is the fact that if we can work to understand how to eat to live and not live to eat, what happens is that as we go younger in life, we grow with longevity. You know? And that's the piece that we should be looking at.
Are there any foods that can be used all seasons?
Well, you do have some, you know, apples, you know, you got you got over 2,400 different apples.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you could eat apples. You know, and there's some of the foods rotate within the compounds of the next season.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I mean, that's like grapes. You know, grapes have a couple of seasons that it works with.
Mm-hmm.
Oranges have a couple of pears.
Mm-hmm.
Berries, some of them berries transition to different. And carrots,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
carrots, you know, even though they could be winter season, carrots can be consumed a lot to maintain the balance of the DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Someone once said that carrots were hybrid and people shouldn't eat them. And so my thing is that within the compounds of the research, it creates the balance for the DNA. So I don't know where they got that information from, but that's exactly what I learned.
What about something like black-eyed peas?
Black-eyed peas is good because of the fact that they're a protein, and you know they can give you protein if you are if you're vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as an Ifa priest, we use black-eyed peas in several different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But
Seems like
but when you start talking about them, they're winter foods.
mm-hmm. Does that mean everywhere we are throughout this world, we have black-eyed peas?
Yeah, basically.
And it seems to really ground us well.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Regardless of season.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, on Saturday, was it Saturday? Yeah, Saturday people put together black-eyed peas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know where that came from. That came from out of our tradition. You know, that's where that came from. That came from them hitting that fiddle and dancing and all of that kind of stuff. You know, back there it's centuries ago. You know, so that's a tradition.
Yes.
You know, to make it so that we got black-eyed peas or hopping johns as they were called, and hit that fiddle and do-si do and all of that kind of stuff. You know. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, they were useful, and they help clear the body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what are the best foods for nurturing the spirit?
Seaweed, sea moss, herbs that work to deal with kidney. One of them is Lu Wei Di Wong Wen. Most of my herbs are Chinese herbs, which is for the left kidney, Bai Wei Di Wong Wen. There's another set of herbs that I make that's called Peaceful. And Peaceful was made back in, I think, the late 70s for alcoholics.
Wow.
Because you know when people get that oil in them, they forget who they are. You know, and so in the programs that I worked for the county in which I live in, for addiction, we found that worked very well. Matter of fact, to the point where we found that it worked so well that we started to administer it to what do you call them? It's in there to come out. It's not Alzheimer's. It's bipolar and autism.
Mm.
And it worked very well. Matter of fact, I have a lady who I've been treating her son since he was 15 and he's 35 now. He has autism, and she don't live without peaceful. Keep him calm. So those are kind of some of the things. And then pray. You know, just sit down and pray.
Mhm.
You know, the piece of that is that when I wake up in the morning, before I roll over to get out of the bed, I pray.
Mhm.
And I give thanks to Olodumare and gratitude for Rumila for allowing me to breathe air this day
Mhm.
and to help me through the experiences that I will encounter during the day. You know, and then I'll go down and come down and do the rituals that I need to do for my day,
Mhm.
and then move towards my day. But prayer is one of the biggest things that I think our ancestors taught us.
Mhm.
You know, was prayer. Even though some of them knew that they were going into the ocean, just before they jumped into the ocean, they prayed.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
So, which of your books has the information in it about each season and what to?
Cleansing within the seasons through the art of fasting. The prevention and healing of female imbalances.
The prevention
And
and
healing of female imbalances.
Okay.
Those are the two that have it in it. And they're not large reads. They're real short reads.
Okay. Okay.
The name of the first one, the cleansing.
Cleansing within the season through the art of fasting. It's in the it's on the PowerPoint. But it's also on the website.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And were you born in the motherland?
Nope. I was born in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia. Okay.
Yeah.
And your female heritage based on the Ifa tradition, that means that your ancestors would have come from that area?
It's interesting because my mother is a Jamaican.
Oh.
Or was a Jamaican, and my father came from the eastern shore of Maryland, which is the indigenous people of Turtle Island. So, and the first time I went to Africa, maybe 10, 15 years ago, the Middle Passage caught me. I felt like I was going to suffocate. Yeah. Although this time it didn't. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of people over there in that water.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah, a whole lot of egg roots. Zolokun.
Yes.
Great. Any other questions?
Well, you have been an incredible guest for us today. I think that we have all just been enlightened. We have all
Definitely.
learned some things that we didn't know and had some reminders of some things that we might have heard a little bit about, but we
That's
weren't
right.
sure about. I think we've
Right.
got a little bit more information. And then we got all of these resources to follow up with in reading, in addition to the instructions on how to uh, make an appointment and get a personal consultation with you. So we have been truly blessed this night by all that you have given us. So we thank you. We thank your ancestors for
Yes,
providing
thank you.
us with you. Um, and with that, family, it is 7 o'clock. We have had another incredible Black Knowledge Matters Wednesday. We will be right back here next Wednesday with something incredible for you. I'm not sure what it is, but it's going to be good. All right. Good night, family.
Thank you,
Right.
Baba.
Thank you,
You're
Oh,
Baba.
welcome.
one other
Baba.
thing, you guys remember we're
And
having a
Dabo,
social. We're having a social on Friday night. So you guys all should have gotten Baba Tai's newsletter today that had a flyer for it. And you can also join by clicking on the website. So hope to see you guys on Friday night. Everyone have a blessed evening. Thank you, Doctor.
Adabo.
Dabo.